We've got all the right in the world on our side, and there ain't no reason to be afraid, and there ain't no reason to not take the challenge dead on, because I'm going to tell you who we come from, folks. We don't come from some weak, jellyback, spineless people. That's not who we come from. None of us. And it doesn't matter what color you are, what nation your folks hail from, how much money you got. We all share the same name. We are Americans. And at Bunker Hill, there was Americans. And at Fredericksburg and Gettysburg, there was Americans. And at Iwo Jima, raising that flag on Suribachi, it was Americans. And at Pork Chop Hill, there was Americans. Quezon, there was Americans. And on 9/11, there was Americans who ran towards those burning buildings. That is who you share your heritage with. You do not share your heritage with a weak and ineffective people who cower at the sight of trouble. You share your heritage with a strong and brave people who are determined to hold on to their freedom and for the freedom of future generations. Guys, it's time for us to stand up and be that generation. It's time for us to stand strong and proud and remember who we are. That we are Americans. And as long as we stand as the vanguard of freedom in this nation, freedom will survive. Not only survive, but fly. So guys, it's time to put on our packs. It's time to fix those bayonets. It's time to get ready. We got a fight on our hands. And our fight is not for us, for all those generations that's going to come behind us. Let's save America, folks.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hey, sliding in here. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good, Sheepdog. Doing good, man. How you doing?
Doing good. Doing really good, Marlon. Glad to be here. Looking forward to another great show with some more information. Maybe some new information, maybe some old information, maybe old new information to you. But regardless, it's information. And if you have any questions as we go on, put a Q with the question in the chat, and we'll try to grab it pertaining to what we're talking about as we go on. So, Tracy, how was your day?
It was good, Sheepdog. I've had a pretty busy start to the week, and today was no different. But good day, and the weather has been beautiful, and I had good news from a little doctor's checkup I had, and so everything is really good. Looking forward to a good show.
Good news, Tracy. That's good news.
Definitely is. Thank you.
Hey, I've got a little announcement I want to make to everybody. I've got some people that's text me both on my cell phone and the office phone that I'll be getting to here shortly, so just bear with me, and we'll get to you and try to get you helped out.
Awesome. Mike will be on a little, probably, I don't know, did you already cover Mike?
No, we need to go ahead and let everybody know tonight that that Mike called me tonight and said something about one of his relatives has got a little emergency situation going on with them. And so he won't be on the show tonight, but we'll keep going without him, and we'll see. You guys can see him on the next show.
Cool. As we move forward, grab that notepad and pen, maybe that pause button. But without further ado, I'd like to welcome Sean back to the show. Thank you, Sean, for coming. How was your day, sir?
It's the normal day of a trucker, buddy, out here trying to find a parking place. It's gotten so bad out here that drivers are running over each other trying to get parked before the e-book says that they're out of the 14 and they start having money took out of their check. It's that bad. And I mean, they're parking in places you wouldn't believe. It's tough out here, but it's not. The trucking industry has turned into the military pretty much. It's that bad. You got it. You feel like a criminal, buddy. It's like having an ankle bracelet. I don't know if you've noticed or ever heard of anybody that had to do time outside of the cell, and that's what I'm going to talk about tonight, is doing time outside of the cell and exactly what the rights are of a U.S. citizen, and the way that we're tracked and traced out here is unbelievable. It's just like you got that ankle bracelet on, and they treat us like criminals, basically, because we've not taken any competent action to prove otherwise, and they handle our affairs as if they're all powers of attorney over us, and they as if we're a minor and an inhabitant without political rights to defense. So without too much further ado, that's what I intend to bring. And with the source document, Law of Nations, short video, that shows what was done with the first U.S. citizens and who it was that did it and what the purposes was. And see, if you learn from history, we're not going to let the bad sides happen again. And we do have a choice. So I can start with the screen share here if everybody's ready with the Law of Nations.
Let's do it.
Okay. Again, I'm not extremely familiar with this type of program, but I'm going to go ahead and try. And if there's a problem with it, somebody can let me know. Can you guys see my screen share here?
Yeah, we're about to. It's coming up now. Yes, sir. There it is.
Okay. Now, when you type in this, and I'll make sure you guys have the link. Basically, all you got to do is look up Emmerich DeVattel, Law of Nations, and you can look into history, and you'll find that George Washington had the only copy from the library of this book during the Constitutional Convention, and it never got returned for some reason. However, in the founding of this nation, this book was looked upon by the founders to understand the conduct and behavior of sovereigns. Now, a sovereign can be a body of people. It can be an officer placed in authority by either tacit or express consent. It can be all the above. But this book right here, basically, what it does is it explains the pattern, the conduct and behavior of sovereigns. And it will explain to you the different types of governments and how to read what type of government you may be a citizen of or people of, so on and so forth. This is found in the Articles of Confederation telegram, pinned messages. And if you click on this book in those pinned messages, and you also, when you got it on a computer like I do, you can click on Control F at the same time, and it should give you a, if you can see, I just had another search bar that popped up. I'm going to type in the word compact. And you can see that it's listed several times. 24 is still counting. 41 times. But the part that I'm going to go to tonight is right around the part is 7th or the 8th time listed. When you click on the arrows there, you'll be able to see where it's listed at and how many times. And let me increase my zoom here a little bit so that everybody might be able to get a better picture of it. And see if I'm in the right spot here, see how easy this is to move around. Because my computer sometimes gives me a little bit of issues. So let me find my right spot. And I see here it's hard to mute yourself out when you're the one sharing the screen. I do have a cough, probably worse than what Mike is, so I hope you guys can bear with that.
You'll be all right, brother.
Obligations to cultivate the home trade. Nations are obliged to cultivate the home trade. First, because it is clearly demonstrated from the law of nature that mankind ought mutually to assist each other, and as far as in their power, contribute to the perfection and happiness of their fellow creatures, whence arises, after the introduction of private property, the obligation to resign to others at a fair price those things which they have occasion for and which we do not destine for our own use. Secondly, society being established with the view that each may procure whatever things are necessary to his own perfection and happiness, and a home trade being the means of attaining them. The obligations to carry on and improve this trade are derived from the very compact on which the society was formed. Finally, being advantageous, the nation is a duty the people owe to themselves to make this commerce flourish. It ain't nobody else that owes it to us. The government don't owe it to us. We owe it to ourselves. Let me find the farther down here. I'm sorry that I don't have this memorized. It's going to take me a couple seconds to find the correct spot that I'm trying to get to. There it is. Okay. In the act of association, by virtue of which a multitude of men form together a state of or nation. It doesn't say a government forms it. It says a multitude of men. Each individual has entered into engagements with all to promote the general welfare, and all have entered into engagements with each individual to facilitate for him the means of supplying his necessities and to protect and defend him. It is manifest that these reciprocal engagements can no otherwise be fulfilled than by maintaining the political association. This is more than signing a piece of paper. This is something that's a lifetime job. The entire nation is then obliged to maintain that association. And as this preservation depends on its continuance, it thence flows that every nation is obliged to perform the duty of self-preservation. In case folks don't already know, the first law of nature is self-preservation. This obligation, so natural to each individual of God's creation, is not derived to nations immediately from nature. Catch that right there. Not derived to nations immediately from nature. You're not born into citizenship, not lawful citizenship. It's not derived immediately from nature, but from the agreement by which civil society is formed. It is therefore not absolute. See, it's not absolute. It don't come from nature. It comes, and now you're going to hear it in a minute, but conditional. That is to say, it supposes the human act, and here it is. This is what it says. This is to say, it supposes the human act, to wit, social compact. It don't come from nature. Being a people don't come from nature. It requires it that is to say, it supposes a human act. It means you got to take action. To wit, the social compact. And as compacts may be dissolved by the common consent of the parties, if the individuals that compose a nation should unanimously agree to break the link that binds them, everybody in the compact would have to agree. That's never happened. Now let's look into another word here. Let's look into inferior. Listed 27 times. And right here it is, folks. That's the U.S. citizen. I'm going to read this to you so you'll get a good comprehension. The inhabitants, as distinguished from citizens, two different things. Citizens and law is not just an inhabitant. It's more than an inhabitant. That's a person that has had competent action, that has taken the action of being competent. The inhabitant has not. Okay, the inhabitant, as distinguished from citizens, are foreigners who are permitted to settle and stay in the country. You can't be denied re-entry as a U.S. citizen, and you cannot be exiled as a U.S. citizen. U.S. versus Valentine, and I can pull that up as well. That's a court case. It's said to have set precedent. Bound to the society by their residence, because you live here and they are subject to the laws of the state while they reside in it. Nation, state, okay? These citizens are members of the civil society, bound to the society by certain duties and subject to its authority. They equally participate in its advantages. I've lost my spot. Give me a second. If I can get this to scroll up just a little bit. It went too far on me again. Okay. Subject to the laws of the state while they reside in it, and they are obliged to defend it. So because you reside in it, you owe the duty of defense. And I'm going to explain that it's actually not a state, a nation state. It's a city state, because you're under the jurisdiction of, no matter what nation state you walk in, by not taking competent action to be a citizen of your nation state or a national of your nation state. So they classify us under as inhabitant U.S. citizenship, which is title of nobility. That's the corporate person. And they're obliged to defend it because it grants them protection, though they do not participate in all the rights of citizens. You see, you don't have all political rights to defense of a citizen. They enjoy only the advantages which the law or custom gives them, and it is a custom of an inferior order. The perpetual inhabitants are those who have received the right of perpetual residence. These are the kinds of citizens of an inferior order and are united to the society without participating in all of its advantages. Their children follow the condition of their fathers. If you have a child in the United States and you're a U.S. citizen, that child is automatic U.S. citizen. They follow the condition of the father. That's the one thing that happens And that's not something that's done by nature. It's because it's an agreement in a private contract. So I'm going to go ahead and yield the screen for a minute for any questions. As Tracy, have you found any questions in the chat?
Not yet. They're gonna send them to me as they come in. So hopefully we'll have some here in a few minutes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and try to put this link in for the Devil's Punch Bowl, Natchez, Mississippi. And I'm going to explain the reason why there was a 14th Bill of Attainder put in place. And it was because there was no franchise for this. This was at the end of the Civil War. There was no franchise for the newly freed slaves, is what it was called. And so what happened is they attempted to create a franchise for them, and it was U.S. citizenship. Now, today you have to be a U.S. citizen to be in the U.S. Army, and if I was called on, I would be one. If it was necessary, and we was invaded, and it was life and limb out here, that there was boots on the ground, foreign boots on our ground, I would do it. I would trade off my nationality to defend the people of this nation in a heartbeat. Let me ask you something. Mike's not here, so I guess Sheepdog's a good one to ask. This is to explain the bounds of being bound by social compact, okay? Your legislation and the military by that authority would be bound if it was by the authority of compact, but if it's contract, then it's not bound by the people, by the collective population. It's bound by the contract, the parties to the contract. Now, being said, in the Treaty of Paris, when they went across the pond over there to sign a treaty, they found that the monarchs would not remain in honor during defeat. So I'm going to say it like this, Sheepdog. If you and I was to have hand-to-hand combat, was the same size, had the same military training, and I had my hands chained behind my back, and you don't. This is the example of the compact as compared to the contract that can be changed in the middle of battle without asking the people. By command, it can be changed. What's the chance that I would win with my hands chained behind my back in compact if you don't have any chains?
Not good at all.
And that's why we had to agree. That's why I believe that the agreement was made for the social contract and the military that was created from that authority. It was because we knew that in defeat the monarchs would not have honor.
Right.
And so today it still is supposed to be what defends our republic, and they are two different things. So I'm going to drop this link in chat so that everybody understands exactly what the rights of the U.S. citizen is. Like I said, you have the right to perpetual residency. You cannot be exiled. You cannot be denied reentry, according to the law. Now, there's been some things recently that laws fall silent during war. In times of war, laws fall silent. That comes from a particular attorney actually he was a judge, and he's passed away, and his name is escaping me at the moment. But I dropped the link in there so it can be played with audio. And remember, people, this cartel that came in during 1871, and they passed it down to their kids, who's passed it down to their kids. They don't care what your skin color is. All right? And if there is not a people, if there's only a franchise of inhabitants with a title of nobility, they don't care what your skin color is. All right? And in that case, when there's nothing but inhabitants, it's a lot harder to bring war crimes against somebody when there's no people there. So I'm going to yield with that, and I'm going to ask if somebody go ahead and play that link. I dropped it in chat.
I got you, Sean. Give me just a second, buddy.
All right.
There you go.
If anybody's got any kids in the room that are really young, this is a little graphic. There's no nudity, there's no cursing, nothing like that. But it's not pretty. This is what happened with the first U.S. citizens.
I appreciate that.
Okay, here we go.
So again, those was the kind of citizens of an inferior order who had the right to perpetual residency. Their children had the right to U.S. citizenship at birth. Andrew Johnson said 3 times that he had vetoed the 14th Amendment, that it enslaved the black as well as the white. And the U.S. Congressional Congress passed it as they declared that speech by Andrew Johnson to be an executive order number 6. Sheepdog, do you mind pulling up executive order number 6? Are you able to do that? Do you know a way of doing that?
Sean, I have a few questions now. If you want to, I mean, we can wait until after you finish with this if you want to.
No, that's fine. We can do questions. That way Sheepdog's got time to look if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Executive Order 6.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Okay. One of the first questions is, do we need something to correct our citizenship due to how they have used us?
What I believe that we need, and what I do, is assist those by being a witness to their competent action, assembled being a people in compact, and by that authority, nationality is administered. Now, I see that David Strait is professing that people should go to the 1892 George Washington Postal Department, and that's a jurisdiction of law, and claim of being a state national. But the funny thing is there's nobody that's administering the oath. There's nobody that's affirming the oath of a state national. and that would be fraud on its face. There's a lot of things that people need to realize. These are not by nature. I just showed you in the law of nations. A nationality does not come by nature. A state national does not come by. It's not supposed directly from nature. It's not an absolute. It requires the human act, either social compact or social contract. And to be in law, it would be the compact. So what do I believe we need to do? We need to be a people again. And from that authority, we need to establish a constitutional legislation. In the time of the Revolutionary War, there was a government here that was colonies, that was British. And what did we do? We formed committees of safety. And what was that? That was a parallel government. And from that, we took our actions. I don't know, Mike, if that's going to explain it, but if you don't mind reading, that would be good.
Hold on, let me put this on another screen. Well, this is still right here. All right, can y'all see that?
Yes.
All right, just the ratification of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution, July 20th, 1868, by the President of the United States of America, a proclamation, whereas by an act of Congress entitled an act to admit the states of North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida to representation in Congress, passed in the 25th day of June, 1868. It is declared that it is made the duty of the president within 10 days after receiving official information of the ratification by the legislator of either said states of a proposed amendment to the Constitution known as the Article 14, to issue a proclamation announcing that fact, and whereas a letter was received this day by the president, which letter, being addressed to the president, bears date of July 16th, 1868, and was transmitted by and under the name of William H. Smith, who therein writes himself Governor of Alabama, in which letter was enclosed and received at the same time by the president a paper purporting to be a resolution of the Senate and House of Representatives of the General Assembly of the State of Alabama ratifying the said proposed amendment, which paper is attested by the signature of Charles A. Miller, as Secretary of State, under a seal purporting to be the seal of the State of Alabama, and bears the date of approval of July 13, 1868, by William H. Smith as governor of said state. Now, therefore, be it known that I, Andrew Johnson, President of the United States of America, in compliance with and execution of the Act of Congress before mentioned, do issue this my proclamation announcing the fact of the ratification of the said amendment by the legislature of the state of Alabama in the manner hereinbefore set forth. In testimony whereof I have signed that these presidents with my hand, and have caused the seal of the United States to be hereto affixed. Done at the city of Washington, this 20th day of July, AD 1868, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 93rd, Andrew Johnson, by the president.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought you was done. That pretty much says it. That right there shows that it is an executive order, and it shows that he stated in his proclamation he was addressing with a proclamation, not an executive order. It was later declared by the U.S. Congress. Now, would you look up one more thing for me here? Look up Bill of Attainder, would you please? The definition of Bill of Attainder. After Andrew Johnson left the office, the U.S. Congress declared that was an executive order, that proclamation. Now, if he intended for that, and in fact, in Address the Nation, he stated clearly, this is not from the authority of my office, but in a custodial duty. And those was the words.
I got it right here. Bill of Attainder, Attainder.
Yes.
I got it coming out of the Black's Law book, Law Dictionary. A special legislative act that sentence on a person without a trial. 2, a special legislative act prescribing punishment without a trial for a specific person or group.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. A group would be the U.S. citizens, the inferior, the type of kind of citizen of an inferior order without political rights to defense. They don't receive trial. What they receive is tribunal and nothing else. Now, there's that's why the courts are admiralty. This was the last Reconstruction. This is why we can't just sit back and remain silent, tacit consent. Because if this don't go in the favor of the people, there is a war at hand on this land right now, people. And no, I'm not part of it. I'm in peace, and I'm in defense of that peace. I'm a people that's here and compact founded. However, I can't stop them from being at war. If they want to be at war, then I can't stop them. And they intend for us to be the casualties, okay? And they intend to bring forward their outcome, the order for the chaos that they've created, known as racketeering, kind of like the train, to a predetermined railroad outcome. Now, if we don't learn from history and start taking some actions, and this possibly does go bad, I do know that we have Chinese military on the north border and on the south border, and we have this 5G surveillance all the way around us, first tested in Wuhan, China. We just need to be raising our kids in the right way. And I've got another video I would like to share here as well. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, folks. What I'm trying to be is realistic, and I'm optimistic as well. We've got God Almighty. Those evil that are trying to bring this against God's creations, they're not going to be successful. But there's going to probably be a lot that fall, and a lot of them that we love ourselves that we have no ability to stop it. And this bioweapon that was injected, if my calculations are correct from my studies, we got 5 years max before we see the max outcome. And they know this. The ones who created this war on God's creation, they know that they have about a 5-year window. That's the end of their deal. If they don't have theirs completed by then, there's going to be too much chaos. It's going to get really bad at that point. So I've got another video here that I'd like to share. Give me a couple seconds to find it. Maybe Sheepdog can look at some of the other questions that may be in chat.
All right.
Yeah, I've got more questions whenever you're ready, Sean.
Yes, ma'am. Remember, people, because of the fact that I do hold the office of governor, I have to be very careful about how it is that I speak publicly, especially recorded, because if I bring the people to peril that's in compact, I have to answer to them. So for me to say things in an absolute without proof, providing a due process, for example, in the southern United States, they held Jefferson Davis, the president of the southern United States, for 2 years on treason and released him. And I know, but I can't prove it, and I can't show it as a fact, that they could not let him have a trial because he would have proven that they was the ones guilty of treason against the people in that Civil War. And I can explain how it come about Tonight, I don't have all my documentation in a row. I don't have all my ducks in a row. I'm speaking generally because if I had the paperwork to pull it up, but I can prove it. Everything I say, I can find the source documents. During the 1812, 1814 era of time, there was a title of nobility and honor that was the 13th Amendment. And this is how you know the difference between the two constitutions of 1789 and 1871. That amendment's not there today. That amendment would have prevented anyone from being restricted in corporate person while holding an office. You wouldn't have been able to hold an office by being restricted. You would have had to have been able to take action in the natural person, which the difference is this. Corporate person, somebody else must handle your affairs for you. In natural person, you can handle your own affairs yourself. Very important. And it's the same thing with the inferior citizen, U.S. citizenship, and the inhabitant, that somebody else must handle your affairs for you in law because you've not taken competent action in your affairs. You're considered a minor, you're considered incompetent. This can be even at 60 years old after you have $10 million in your hand. Don't make no difference in that court. So I've gotten a little bit advanced into what I was trying to explain. They burnt down the 13th Amendment. 7,500 British troops walked in and burned it down, walked out. They left. Basically, at that time, they also seized one or two of the states. And I'm not sure which ones right this minute, but I can prove that as well. And they only left, for the most part, loyalists to the crown with the intention of ending the natural person, which was of nation states, and forcing everyone into the restricted person so that they would have to stand under a bar associate, barrister, or lawyer. They would not be able to stand in their own defense anymore. That was what the intent was, is to end the nation's state sovereignty. And that's what the outcome was. The outcome proves what the intent was. So the way that they done this was to divide and conquer. When they left the loyalists from 1812, 1814 era, right around 1854, I think, they came out with the taxation of abomination. They could not go against the states in propriety, however you say that. Taxes was supposed to be proportioned, and they could not go against them unequally that way, so they found another way. And they went after the trade, that what it was that they went at, what they produced the most of, and they taxed that harder than what they taxed the manufacturing in the north. The intention was, by wars of attrition, in other words, starve somebody into submission, and that's what the intention was, to divide the nation, and they got it done. The end. Lincoln, he attempted to bring in 3 of the southern states on equal footing. Edward Stanton was actually Edward Stanton, Secretary of War, was working with John Wilkes Booth, and there's evidence because now Booth's diary has been sent to forensics, and it implicated Stanton, which was Lincoln's cabinet, and he was in collusion with Booth in the assassination of Lincoln. And after Lincoln was assassinated, the 3 states that he brought into the new Union on equal footing, U.S. Congress stepped up and declared that was not within the executive scope. It was within legislative scope only, and those 3 states was not allowed equal footing to enter into the new Union. These all things that I speak of are things that we should know, and we should teach the kids. However, if we teach the kids too much without them knowing everything and being mature enough to be able to handle it, a militia is something that is necessary, but it says well regulated in the Constitution for a reason. Now, when I say that, I've seen one video. It was made about 6 years ago, and I'm trying to get it pulled up right now because I'd like to share that and the importance of raising them in the right way. If we're going to let the kids learn anything and we don't participate in what they try to do, the outcome is very concerning. The worst thing you can do is educate somebody that improper or not fully. If they're lacking, if they think that we're back in the founding time, then that may be the exact same actions, but we're not in founding time. It's already been founded. What we are is way past that. A lot of other things have taken place since then as well. So it's not going to be like it was before. We're not going to be able to handle this exactly the way that we handled it before. I'm still trying to pull out the video, so if you can bear with me for a minute. I'll yield, and if there's another question, I'll try to look at that while I'm looking up this video.
Did you have any more questions, Tracy?
Yes, I do. One that they're asking, Sean, is, was this the information that you've been sharing, was that written before the Parents Patre Act? PARENS Act.
Sheepdog, can you enlighten me on what that is? Because
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
Spell that again.
PARENS PATRE Act, ACT.
You go on with the next question, though.
The next question, this gentleman says, pardon me, but is this per the discussion, the citizens must request that the military be brought to bear to defend the citizens of the United States?
The U.S. Army's duty is to defend the U.S. Constitution. It's not necessarily the citizen. And the citizen is actually property within the Constitution, and thereby it is their place to defend the citizen, but it's not necessarily the life, liberty that everybody is thinking is supposed to be defended. That's our duty. That's if there's damage that's being caused because we're standing on our rights of life and liberty, then the military would have to step up and stop the damage. If that's the easiest way that I know to explain it right off the top of my head. We all have a duty here, all right? And the military's duty is to protect the republic and the U.S. Constitution as well, because that's the doctrine of its foundation. I don't know if I answered that well. Sheepdog, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more than I have.
I think the other option would be that I've been looking into, Sean, would be armed humanitarian intervention. It's when the government commits genocide on the people, or humanitarian. Let's see what it does. Humanitarian intervention is the use of military force to address extraordinary suffering of people, such as genocide or similar, like a large-scale violation of basic human rights, where people suffering results from their own government's actions or failures to act. These interventions are also called quote unquote armed interventions or armed humanitarian interventions or humanitarian wars. They are interventions to protect, defend, or rescue other people from gross abuse attributable to their own government. The armed intervention is conducted without the consent of the offending nation, those intervening militarily, or one or more states of international organizations. So, yeah, but we do have a duty, just like as our forefathers did and everyone that came before us. Uh, in order for something to be taken down, there has to be something in place by the people, because that would be total chaos, wouldn't it, Sean? To just totally to try. Everybody's expecting everything to be dismantled, but in order that to be taken down, there's something has to be in place. So we do have a duty, and this country's true leaders will rise to the occasion.
The easiest way for me to try to explain this is because of the fact that we're not maintaining compacts of nation states and there's not actually a people. I'm saying in general for the largest part, for the majority of the country. And the AFR is very fresh, January 6, 2021. Because of that, historically, that has left us all inhabitants, and that's how we become under the jurisdiction of DC, being the inhabitant U.S. citizen. That it's as if we're on that boat sitting outside where the Star Spangled Banner was written in the gallows, looking at the flag. We're basically considered lost at sea from a postal jurisdiction of law of Puerto Rico, which is a territory. It's not a state. It's not a nation. It's a territory of the United States. And that places us squarely, without taking competent action of being a people and nation states, that places us squarely under DC. In other words, they have not invaded the states. We have failed to occupy being a people. And in the meantime, all these other criminals that have come in here that are illegal aliens, immigrants, they're very dangerous. And this is the purpose for the military, is to deal with those inhabitants that are extremely dangerous to the republic, that would cause a lot of damage to this nation. This nation has a lot of industry. We do produce quite a bit in the world per view. We transport a lot from Canada to Mexico. The military of DC, their job is to stop the property from being taken by a foreign enemy or a foreign entity or damaged. And we are considered today, being inhabitants of DC, a U.S. citizen, property that can't be damaged. They're not supposed to let us be damaged. And this bioweapon has done that. So that's what you're seeing unfold in front of you. The military is attempting to step up to stop the damage that has been done. And it goes farther.
Those are war crimes, aren't they?
Yes, especially more so if there's a people in place. Because people have political rights to defense, where inhabitants, they don't have all the political rights to defense, as I showed in the Law of Nations right there.
Yeah, I looked it up in my law, in the Black's Dictionary, Law of Nations. You can also look up international law.
That basically is what the Law of Nations is. It's international law.
Yeah.
So what I say is that we go back to being a people, so that our voice has authority. It's documented. I have somebody that is in compact now in the state of Washington, and they was entered into a traffic ticket, okay, Just the simplest of matters. However, that court acknowledged him in another person. Title 42 for I lose words sometimes. My mind is on so many things to try to explain this right. For lack of better terms, Title 42, any other person, he entered in the AFR person into the courtroom on behalf of the U.S. person that had been associated to him. And it was acknowledged by that court that the compact was invoked and he was present on behalf of the U.S. person. He was there in two different persons. I have the documentation to prove it. It was acknowledged compact, and it was acknowledged invoked. And it was acknowledged that he was there in one person on behalf of the other, and both associated to the same soul. My work is true. What I tell you is facts. It may be hard to follow, but if you continue to assemble around me, it will come to you. And what I propose is not a damage to the U.S. at all. What I propose is that we build the elements of being a people of nations. And when I say that, one of the biggest things right now is that we become the creditor of our own currency again. The AFR has in place one silver trade unit. It's one troy ounce, 0.99% pure bullion. What I've been trying to do is figure out how to mint the coin. Now, this is not a U.S. currency. This is an AFR currency. They can't claim that it's counterfeited because it's not from their authority. It's from the authority of the postal jurisdiction of law of the Articles of Confederation of nation states. And so being said, right now, the best way I can do that is find a laser engraver, a fiber laser engraver that's got at least 40, 50 watts of output. And that the cheapest I've found so far is about $1,500. Now, I've already started by trying to press it. I went and bought a jack and tried to press some myself. I've already spent $500 just on a jack, and it deformed it. I didn't have precision, and I'm not happy with the product, and I'm not gonna disgrace anybody by something like that. So I gave up on that. So I've moved to the laser engraver, and what we would need to do is we would need to buy blank silver rounds and trade that for the coin, because the Federal Reserve claims first lien rights on all products, which Mike covered some of that. I've seen in his previous videos how the Crown claims that nothing would have been produced without the Federal Reserve note. So they have first lien rights. And the same thing, like 50% of all the things that are mined of the earth as well. Without their works, that nothing would have been able to be produced. And so the way to get around that I see would be to purchase, say, 3 blank rounds and trade that for 2 coins that are minted, which would be already laser engraved, which I do know somebody that provides the service. And then that would remove lien rights, and that would put us back into being the creditors of our own currency, because it's been enacted by the people in compact. I'm going to yield with that much and see if everybody's following what I've said so far.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Yes, sir. Because if we can get this in circulation and get it in our hands, then when it comes down to it, everybody knows that silver holds value. Yep. If it comes down to it and the system goes down, the grid goes down, these people that are at war are handling things, the military's handling things, we'll still be able to trade with one another a little bit. We'll still have something of value other than, that would be on a national level or on a national state level, nation state level, because there's so many states. If you don't mind, Sheepdog, I like somebody that helps me. If you can look and see how many states it is that has taken taxes off of silver. This is already beginning to move, people.
Yeah, it is. I've heard of a couple already. Let me
I was going to say, I think the last time I looked, it was up to like 26. But it's probably more than that now.
It's at least 26. I'm thinking that I was told 32. But again, like I say, I drive a truck and I drive pretty much when I'm not asleep. I don't play, folks. I stay busy in research. I stay on a lot of different platforms. I stay in creating documents. We have an action of interposition. We're in a time of post lamentamine. And matter of fact, now that I've brought that up, I think I'll try to pull that up real quick and see if I can share that as well. It's listed in our newspaper, the AFR.org. If you go to that and you go down to the affiliated links and you click on the newspaper, there's a tab in that newspaper that'll show our action of interposition. We do have a committee of safety in place, and that anybody in the committee of safety or anybody that's in compact can issue this action of interposition, and it has authority in law. I'd like to try to cover that if we have time.
Yeah, we're up to 40 U.S. states now, fully or partially exempt from gold and silver sales tax now. So it's up to 40.
That's the first step in making it a currency again. You got to end the Federal Reserve note taxation, and they have 40 of them. So it's growing. The last I heard was 32. So it's
right.
definitely growing.
Well, some are partially. So you're probably talking about the fully 32. But the last one was, I think, Arkansas.
And as well, you've also got Texas, who has created their own reserve, their own treasury reserve. So these things that I'm speaking of, they are happening. They are moving. Yeah. It is taking place. We all need to be a part of it. We need to show our support by compact, by authority of compact, instead of divided inhabitants. We can't continue under the old guard. It's gone. It's being brought down. What's going to replace it depends on us as well. It's not just on Trump. It's not just on the military. It's on the military to prevent the damage. They're in damage control. And if we step forward in compact, the same would be. They would be in damage control to prevent damage to harm to us. And I'm going to show you how it is that we're in a time of lamentamine right now within the law of nations, according to the law of nations. So I'm fixing to start another screen share here.
All right.
This is by affidavit, which in a courtroom, affidavit is the strongest instrument that you can next to compact by affidavit. Affidavit is the strongest instrument that you can use in their courts right now, because that's your voice, that's your sworn statement. It's just like the sworn statement of a police officer, and I could go into a lot of detail about that. This is the national seal that was nationalized by the Authority of People in Compact of the AFR. This here, an Appeal to Heaven national flag, has now been nationalized by the authority of a people in this nation. This flag was the first flag that was ever raised in defense of the American people. This was raised on all of George Washington's naval ships. This was before Betsy Ross. This was before there was a U.S. Army. This was our militia. This was the flag of our nation. It was never officially brought in until after 2021. This is the action of interposition in accordance with the doctrine of lesser magistrates. This action is herein enacted. Let me see if I can read this right. This action is by the herein enacted Committee of Safety with lawful authority of the United States of America and 48 contiguous several states of the Union. Under the first and right Articles of Confederation, amended March 6, 2022, enacted by and through the population of people established lawfully in bilateral social compact agreement. Contact information found in the following website, theafr.org. This action of interposition in accordance with the doctrine of lesser magistrates, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the Law of Nations, as written by Emmerich de Vattel, published in 1758, defining the conduct of sovereigns. The lawful sovereign offices of sheriff and governor in all 48 contiguous nation states of the Union are hereby enacted, and by and through the aforementioned lawful constitutional legislature within the herein enacted Committee of Safety in the several states of the Union, body politic society, every inhabitant acting from an inferior corporate society through contract, aka unwritten constitutional office, per Justice Chase. Now, this is what I'm saying outside of this. U.S. Justice Chase. A constitution said to solely contain the compact within can only be referred to as the unwritten constitution in law. I can show you that that was ruled upon in a U.S. court by a Justice Chase. Unwritten constitutional office. Being served this notice is hereby commissioned and delegated limited lawful authority to end wars of attrition caused by acts of inferior corporate legislative Congress, punishing people and or persons without lawful trial by and through bills of attainder. The war of attrition is hereby defined. Warfare by attrition is the corporate congressional military-style strategy consisting of belligerent attempts to win their war by wearing down lawful constitutional people in several states of the Union, the United States of America, ratified 1781, 2020, or 1781, 2021, 2022, to the point of the operational collapse. Say that again, to the point of collapse, thereby perpetuating a permanent state of statelessness by and through aforementioned acts of inferior Congress. The aforementioned acts of inferior corporate congressional legislation prevents necessities of society, which forces all inhabitants of society into aggression upon itself, enabling perpetual submission to inferior congressional legislation. Source, and there's a link right here, Vattel's Law of Nations, natural law. Messed up my screen share probably. Let's see if it'll go back. Okay, are you guys still able to see my screen?
Yep.
Good. All right. I keep getting some things in my Telegram while I'm trying to read this, so forgive those distractions.
It's not
All
coming
right.
across.
Good. All right, so can you see where it says chapter 11 right here?
Yep. You want me to read that?
If you would, please. This is verbatim from the Law of Nations.
Chapter 11?
Yeah, let me increase the font here and make it a little easier for you.
I got it. Appreciate it. All right. Chapter 11 of the Sovereign Who Wages an Unjust War, 183. An unjust war gives no right whatsoever. There's your 187. Whether the nation and the military are bound to anything, the restitution of conquest of prisoners and of all property that still exists in a recoverable state admits of no doubt when the injustice of the war is acknowledged. The nation in her egregious capacity and each individual particularly concerned being convinced of the injustice of their possession are bound to relinquish it and to restore everything which they have wrongfully acquired. But as to the reparation of any damage, are the military, the generals, officers, and soldiers obliged and conscious to repair the injuries which they have done, not of their own will, but as instruments in the hands of their sovereign? Question mark.
this is where we're at, people. This is what we're at, where we're at in a time within the law of nations. If you would continue reading, please.
Chapter 14 of the right of postilium. Definition of the right of postilium. The right of postilium is that in virtue of which persons and things taken by the enemy are restored to their former state on coming again into the power of the nation to which they belong. Foundation of this right, the sovereign is bound to protect the persons and property of his subjects and to defend them against the enemy. When, therefore, a subject or any part of his property has fallen into the enemy's possession, should any fortunate event bring them again into the sovereign's power, it is undoubtedly his duty. It is undoubtedly his duty to restore them to their former condition, to reestablish the persons in all their rights and obligations, to give back the effects to the owners, in a word, to replace everything on the same footing on which it stood previous to the enemy's capture. The justice or injustice of the war makes no difference in this case, not only because, according to the voluntary law of nations, the war, as to its effects, is reputed just on both sides, but likewise because war, whether just or not, is a national concern, and if the subjects who fight or suffer in the national cause should, after they have, either in their persons or their property, fallen into the enemy's power, be by some fortunate incident restored to the hands of their own people, there is no reason why they should not be restored to their former condition. It is the same. It is the same as if they had never been taken. If the war was just on the part of their nation, they were unjustly captured by the enemy, and thus nothing is more natural than to restore them to as soon as it becomes possible. If the war is unjust, they are under no greater obligation to suffer in an atonement for its injustice than the rest of the nation. Fortune brings down the evil on their heads, and when they are taken, she delivers them from it when they escape. Here again, it is the same as if they never had been captured. Neither they own sovereign, nor the enemy has any particular right over them. The enemy has lost by one accident, which he had gained by another. How it takes effect, persons return and things are recovered by the right of the post millennium, when, after having been taken by the enemy, they come again into the power of their own nation. This right, therefore, takes effect as soon as such persons or things captured by the enemy fall into the hands of the soldiers belonging to their own nation, or brought back to the army, the camp, the territories of their sovereign, or the places under his command.
Said a mouthful, brother. So basically, right there tells you where we're at within the law of nations. I'm going to read this last paragraph here. That's what he just read is verbatim within the law of nations, and that's where we are. We're in a time of postal minimum, however you want to pronounce that. So this doctrine right here is a combination of the law of nations as a source document. It's also within the Declaration of Human Rights. And this was by the authority of a people in compact. The Committee of Safety was created, just as it was in our founding. We, the people in the United States of America, hereby reject the aforementioned state of statelessness and war of attrition. By and through service of this notice, we, the people, make peace. This limited delegation of authority creates this duty of inferior officers to take action, being enacted as lawful officers. This is your call to lawful duty, ending your restrictions of the person you have been bound to by private, contractual, corporate, inferior society. replacing rightful people of several states through the international treaties and or licensing with foreign associations is hereby forbidden. Perpetuating the aforementioned war of attrition as inferior officers is the international war crime of genociding people of the several states of the Union, the United States of America. This action of interposition is in accordance with the doctrine of lesser magistrates, hereby effective and ordered on 3/11/2022, by and through. Now, you've got my signature, and there was 3 others within the Committee of Safety. I was not only in one person, I was in several different capacities. I signed this from the office of president because there is no officer in place. I have the ability to step in when necessary, being the governor. I done it from the authority of Committee of Safety. I done it as a witness and an affiant. Also, there was Joshua Roy Eddy, authorized signature, autograph. He was the Committee of Safety, and he was a witness, being people in compact. Jason Daniel Sapp. And by the way, there has been an amendment, which I'll explain in a minute. Jason Daniel Sapp, authorized signature, autograph, Committee of Safety, witness, being one of the people in compact, and an officer of the Committee of Safety. Mark McQueen, authorized signature, autograph, Secretary of State, Committee of Safety, International Arbiter, witness, affiant. So he was in a committee, he was in compact authority and being a witness, and he was also in authority of being Secretary of State with announcement. He was also a Committee of Safety as a witness. This is very powerful, people. A little detail. Mark McQueen is from Florida. I myself am from Georgia. Jason's from Georgia. Joshua Roy Eddy is from Washington, state of Washington. The Articles of Confederation have been amended. Member of a Committee of Safety from 3 different nation states. Their action is equal to that of in Congress assembled, so long as it is adjourned. And it has been adjourned until we came about since 1781. When the last Postmaster General left office in 1789, that was the last of people being registered in that postal jurisdiction lawfully until 2021. Now, I'm going to give you a couple names here. Your first Postmaster General, Benjamin Franklin of our Republic. First Postmaster General of the United States, or the United States of America, lowercase t, Samuel Osgood. That's the first. That's 2 different first Postmaster Generals for a reason, because it was not an amendment to the Articles of Confederation. That's why. Your first president, John Hancock of our Republic. Your first president of the United States of America, lowercase t, the United States, George Washington. 2 different Postmaster Generals, 2 different first presidents, 2 different postal jurisdictions of law. George Washington, 1892 Postal Department Act. Go look it up. It's real. It's there. 2 different postal jurisdictions of law, 2 different first presidents, 2 different first Postmaster Generals. There's a reason, and that is because the Articles of Confederation was not amended. The Constitutional Convention created something new, something entirely different and separate. There was a reason for it, and there still is. It's to defend the Republic. They're 2 different things. I'm going to yield now for any questions.
And a lot of good information, Sean. Appreciate that.
Let me get back to the questions real quick.
Now, when you said, Sean, when you said made an announcement, can you clarify that? It's something to do with making an announcement via the local newspaper, or is that correct? Or
What needs to happen is there needs to be a convention of state with a compact in place to be presented. Once you got at least 4 people, that would be 2 in my name I will hear, and 2 as a witness in law is notary. 4, and they can act for each other. They can take action for each other. They can change. They can be in the same positions for each other. So if you got at least 4 in compact, that's valid. And you put it in publication for signatories. It's got to be available for the rest of the public, or it's not a compact. If I go buy a Lambert pickup truck, and the title says that it's good for moving 45,000 pounds of weight, and it says semi truck, and I go buy it, and I'm naive enough to believe that it's a semi truck, and I back it up, and I put 45,000 pounds on the back of that pickup truck, and watch it squat to the ground, smashed. Well, it's probably because I didn't look at it and realize that the elements of the semi is not what I had in front of me. We're going to have to start looking at what these documents are. What are the elements of a constitution? Where is it derived from? What is a social contract? Who are the parties to a social contract? What authority are they in? Are they in natural image, or are they in restricted person? Are they in natural person or restricted person? You understand what I'm trying to say? It's time that we start critically thinking and tear these things apart and understand and critically know what they are made of and bring them back. The things that made this nation strong.
There we go. I agree.
If you're not attacking the U.S. Inc. or the U.S., if Trump has brought back the U.S., because I do know there is an executive order for the executive branch reconstruction. I've read it. There is a presidential directive, and it was done during Trump's administration. I do know this is a fact. We are in a reconstruction phase. If he has brought back, if the people working with him, they have brought back the Republic of 1789. Well, actually, I'm not going to call it a republic. If they have brought back the 1789 Union that was contracted by the states to defend this nation, they wasn't never meant to come inside the nation, but we failed to do our duty. They've had no choice. See, we was invaded during that Civil War. Okay, South Carolina put it in their paperwork. We are hereby seceding from the original Union. They didn't say from the United States. They didn't say from the United States of America, lowercase t. They said from the original perpetual Union. We are hereby seceding from the perpetual Union. That was all they needed right there. That's all the U.S. needed, because they had actually been invaded. You realize that the Rothschilds go back this far? You realize that they sent 2 brothers. One was to the north and one was to the south. We was invaded. We was infiltrated. And that's what occurred. And there was a reason for it. It was to bring the end of the natural person. It was to bring an end to the nation state sovereignty. And they got it done through traitors within the U.S. and the U.S. Inc. I'm not saying that the U.S. and the U.S. Inc. are bad things. What I'm saying is there was traitors that got inside there that was bad. It's our job to remain in our nation states being a people, and don't never let nobody stop that.
All right, Sean, I've got a few more questions. One is, if a person becomes a state national, is it true they must give up all ties to the government? Social security checks, social security number, utility contracts, renting, etc.
U.S. Constitution, I believe it's Article 6. The people have the right to remain secure in their persons, and that's plural, which means that you're capable of having more than one person. The AFR nationalizes. We have a national of all 48 contiguous nation states, which is a state national. Okay, there is somebody that's by the authority of people in compact in office who administers and affirms the oath, which is not something that David Straight is bringing forward. What David Straight's getting people to do is go in there and claim that they're a state national without ever having an oath affirmed or what's the word? Sworn or affirmed. I've had a long day, folks. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I lose words sometimes. You got to have somebody in office that acknowledges this, okay? And there's nobody in the U.S. that's doing that. There's nobody. This is either done by a magistrate or somebody within a postal position. Just handing you the ID is not acknowledgement. Your oath has got to be sworn or affirmed. And what David Straight's got people doing is without having that, it's not affirmed. So the answer is no. You don't have to give it up because you can have more than one person. You can be a state national of the AFR, which is another person, Title 42. Any other person. U.S. Title 42, any other person.
Okay, someone's asking, Sean, do you offer classes on how to do this process?
I offer as a friend and counsel to assist. I don't give legal advice.
Okay.
I have not gave classes. I'm a witness. I do the best I can to be a steward of God's land. I attempt to assist people in compact in lawful action. I do not give U.S. legal advice at all. That's the best that I can answer on that.
Okay. How is there a website that people can reach you or an email address they can email you questions?
Absolutely. There's the AFR.org, and all of our sites are accessible from there in the affiliated links.
Okay, AFR.org. Okay.
Yes. And in affiliated links, all of our sites there. We have the newspaper listed there. We have the Rumble listed there. And by the way, I would recommend that everybody take a good look at that Rumble. The Butcher's Bill of Great Power War. I would probably like to touch base on that tonight if we have a chance. Because in case you guys haven't noticed this, Derek Johnson has been true with a lot of things that he has brought forward. There's been a lot removed or relieved of command in high positions in the last three and a half years. And I mean a bunch. So those Obama generals are being removed. Those people that are in the industrial complex that are not in the interest of this country, they are being removed. There are things being done that actually is in the favor of this population. Let me see if I can find this other video that I wanted to play. It's about 4 minutes, so I hope that people wouldn't mind 4 minutes. In case you didn't catch the entrance of the NATO in Norfolk, Virginia, and the onset speech of Miley. Are you familiar, Sheepdog?
No, sir.
General Miley is a 40-year U.S. military officer, general, and he came out and
General Milley.
Yes, Milley.
Yeah.
Yes. He came out and he gave a speech at the onset. I'm not getting it pulled up that way. Let me try another way. So again, folks, tonight I'm going by the seat of the pants. I didn't have time to prepare. I'm jumping all over the page here. You can always, as Mike has been saying, you can always go back to the video, rewind it, look at the documents, look at the videos, see the witnesses yourself, go and look up other source documents. Because if there's anything that I'm incorrect about, I'd like to know the truth. I'm all about the truth. If you can show me something I don't know, yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Always open.
So as far as I'm concerned, that's what I'm all about, is assembling and learning together and growing and expanding. Because we have been dumbed down. We have been forced into basically the devil's punch bowl by these criminals that are within the U.S. Inc. I'm not saying the U.S. Inc. is a bad thing. What happened is, in my view, and I haven't provided due process, I'm not accusing, however, my opinion is, the Bar Association has merged all three branches, and in doing so, dissolved the U.S. Inc. And they've created a lot of war crimes. And in the process, they've also abandoned that postal jurisdiction of law and stepped into the city-state authority. And that is how they've gotten away with the genocide with a bioweapon, because they're not a party to the Nuremberg in that different postal jurisdiction of law. And we spoke the other night, Sheepdog, in the backstage about the government of District of Columbia and the USDC government being two different governments in the same territory. And that city-state authority, government of District of Columbia, how they called down the troops from guarding Trump and the White House, and they painted on the street the 3 stars and bars flag beside Black Lives Matter, but nobody noticed the symbolic gesture of the 3 stars and bars. That's the authority that the troops was called down with, was the city-state authority. And that is an entirely separate government than what was ceded to the U.S. And it's in the same 10 square miles. So that's something that we need to take in consideration. The Home Rule Act. Trump had to call in his own private security to guard the White House at that time. Right this second, I'm working on pulling up the Butcher's Bill, a Great Power War, because this deserves some discussion. This is the AFR's Rumble, and it's about 5 minutes, but it is important. So I'm going to throw it in chat. Maybe, Sheepdog, you could share it. Now, again, if anybody finds anything that I am not covering, or they find something in opposition, please bring it forward for discussion. I try to open the Articles of Confederation, and it's without the word "the." It's just Articles of Confederation, capital A, capital C, the rest is lowercase. Articles of Confederation Telegram. I do try to open that for live time discussion on a daily basis. I try to do that between 8 and 10 a.m. every day. I just dropped the Butcher's Bill of Great Power War in the chat, and this is Miley, the 40-year U.S. Army general, at the onset. And I do want everybody to realize that NATO had actually at that time ceded all of the U.S. Army bases under the NATO command, and that was a French commander, by the way. Kind of funny how all things keep seeming to go back to France.
The French, yeah.
Yes. So I dropped the link in chat if somebody would do it.
All right. Is that it right there? Should be.
Yes, sir.
Sean, we have another interesting question here. Someone is saying, if they're understanding you correctly, the Chinese troops are poised on our northern and southern borders, ready to take over the U.S. and claim it as property of China. All because we, the people, do not know how to approach our military and ask them to defend us. Please tell me I'm wrong.
You're close. You're close to right. You're a little bit wrong. The military is not going to let it happen. The white hats that are in the military, we do have good and bad in the industrial complex, and that's why Trump had to federalize the state National Guard to equal it out and have enough good white hats to be able to handle this. The military is not going to let them do this. I will tell you that I was privy to a document that I cannot provide at this point, and I will tell you what it highlighted. During the Clinton administration, they made an agreement for the national debt if they defaulted, and they did under Obama, that China would have the right to use American land as eminent domain. They would not never be able to own it, but they would be able to use it as eminent domain and cleanse it with chemical and biological warfare. That's what we have seen taking place in front of us, and the White House have taken them down for it. They're trying to satisfy that contract, and they did default under Obama. So if they was free roam, free will to do it entirely, you wouldn't be seeing these pedophile rings go down. You wouldn't be seeing the military stepping up and taking down officials that are enforcing these evil acts. You wouldn't be seeing that.
Right.
They don't have the free reign of eminent domain that the Clinton Foundation promised in contract. It's being prevented, but they're trying. So that's what you see here. Now, if Hillary would have got in the office, lights out, folks. China would already be here.
Yep. That's how you know. That's how you know the good guys are in control of the situation.
That's right. Yes, sir. Go ahead and play that if you would.
Right.
And I'm going to have to make a real quick trip up here up front. Hopefully, I'll be back by the time it's done. It's about 5 minutes. So I should be about that quick.
All right. Can everybody hear this? I'll let it play.
Right this minute, as we speak, as we sit here on the Kearsarge, there's a whole set of technologies that are driving fundamental change. And if we, United States military, and we, NATO as an alliance, do not adapt and adopt these technologies, if we don't get there firstest with the mostest, and we don't put the pedal to the metal and do this right over the next 10 or 15 years, we are condemning a future generation to what happened 76 years ago. Consider precision munitions in combination with a ubiquitous ISR capability where we can now see and map and sense the world around us like at no time in human history. We can shoot at ranges never before known. Sometimes it's actually beyond comprehension to think about some of this. Add to that artificial intelligence, which is an incredibly powerful technology, and the information capabilities that come with it, the speed of decision making, the man-machine interface. Think today of robotics, and what that might mean to the Navy, to NATO, to air forces and ground forces in the very, very near future. And we're not even talking yet about biotechnology, human engineering, miniaturization, 3D printing. There's about 40 or 50 technologies that are all converging very, very rapidly in the very near future, 5, 10, 15 years. And it's going to have a fundamental impact on the conduct of war. And we are right in the middle of it. Those technologies are available to every country in the world today. There's nothing particularly secret about many of them. And I would argue that the country that masters those technologies, combines them with their doctrine, develops their leadership to take maximum advantage of them, is likely going to have significant and perhaps even decisive advantage at the beginning of the next war. And in fact, that may be as long as the war lasts. So mastering the change in the character of war is most likely going to be the most important thing that we do as a professional military over the next 10 to 15 years. And in addition to that, with the American military, we have to do it as an alliance. And we're going to succeed or fail as a nation with our allies and partners. because the United States does not fight wars alone. We have an incredible network of allies and partners around the world, and it's one of the great strengths that our country has. And NATO is a bulwark to thwart those who are seeking to undermine the security of our alliance, who are seeking to undermine the global order. Real capabilities and demonstrable military strength are at the very heart of deterrence. And that's what JFC Norfolk is all about. And we, as an alliance, are stronger together than we are individually. And all of us should be confident in our collective ability to ensure that whether it's in the Caribbean or up in the Arctic or across the Atlantic Ocean, whether it's in space or cyberspace, whether it's at sea or undersea or on the land or in the air, NATO is still the most powerful alliance in the world, and the United States is still the most powerful and capable military in the world. The challenge to us is we have to keep it that way. We have to maintain the readiness of the present. We have to modernize for the future. We are ready right now. Those who think we are not are mistaken. And any adversary that seeks to challenge the United States military resolve will do well to respect this military and our alliance in NATO. But the challenge is really going to be in the future, in the not too distant future. And that's where our focus needs to be. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for participating in JFC Norfolk and getting them off the ground, because this is representative of what is going to be needed in the future to maintain the deterrence, maintain great power peace, and prevent great power war. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was a lot of that was a big mighty plan he had put together there. What? Are you there? Can y'all hear me? Hello?
Yeah, you're there, sheepdog. Sorry. I couldn't get back to my page, my main page.
Oh, okay.
I apologize, folks. Out here on the road, you got a football field to get to the throne.
Gotcha.
So, Sheepdog, I hope that what I brought forward in that video, he's sitting there and he's giving a notice, okay, of this, these technologies that some of these bad people in the industrial complex intended to use on us. Yeah. And that they was going to adapt them, not just, adapt and adopt. And it was going to combine military and political doctrine. Now, this was back at the beginning of NATO at Norfolk, Virginia. And there is an executive order that is a presidential directive that separated military from federal. And it was prevented. This is how bad it was getting, people. If you think that the military is not doing things that is in our interest, take a closer look, because they really are. My dad done 20 years in the U.S. Army. I've got full respect for the men of America that have and that are. And, even if that army is not necessarily the sole property of the nation states of the United States of America, even if it's not the sole property, that's still our boys there.
Yeah.
Don't forget that. That's our people.
Yep.
Just like with the sheriffs, as I had mentioned, being by the authority of a private social contract, and the action of interposition and acting in office and electing them to it. Those are our people, and if they wasn't doing a job, you realize that there's already been Chinese police stations found in this country.
Yeah.
If our American people didn't step up and do that job, that is very dangerous. They're straddling a very dangerous line because their backs are against the wall by the authority of that private social contract. They're bound to the City of London regulation. They're paid by the International Federal Reserve note. They're not enacted by us. Office has not been enacted by us. They're not elected by us. Everybody thinks that there are public officials. They are our boys. They're our people. They're our Americans. And they've used that authority generally in our interest. But the truth is the truth. And that's why the old guard's coming down. Praise God. Praise God for that.
Yep.
Sean, since that video, we've had several people asking. A lot of people in the chat have believed that Millie is bad. Is that
if that tells you anything?
he's what?
Trump publicly stated that Millie is stupid.
Okay, so that answers the question. He's not on the good guy's side.
That's correct. Not in my book, he's not. I have provided no due process. Again, it's my opinion. But I've seen the live witness testimony, Trump stating that Millie is stupid. That should tell you something, I believe.
Yes, I agree with that. Another question that they're saying that Russell J. Gould tried to do all of this back in the 2000s through special postal codes. Is this the same thing that you're doing?
Russell J. Gould captured the flag and surrendered it to the Pentagon. However, it's not the same thing I do because Russell J. Gould is operating by the authority of a private social contract. And when it claims a population, that's slavery. Unless that population is full of inhabitant inferior persons that are not willing, with full disclosure, to take action in their own behalf. There's a lot of fraud here, folks. There's laws written in Latin, as is spoken. That's very true. A lot of things are very deceiving. The Illuminati illumination is very real. And that old guard is being brought down. The bar associates are already beginning to complain about not having allegiance to that City of London authority, about the watered down bar license that is being prepared at this point. All I can say is this: good riddance. Good riddance. They don't belong here. And I've only had one guy that was not even federal that stepped up and tried to oppose me and what our work is at the AFR. And I asked him to bring his evidence, or his claim has no validity and he's guilty of trespass and aggression. He said, I'm going to bring in the Law of Nations, U.S. Constitution, and the what is that over on the other side of the pond? That agreement over there. What they do to that?
Treaty of Paris, is that the one you're talking about?
No, that was a contract, and that was a different contract. There was one way before that over in Britain.
It was the
Magna Carta.
Yeah. Let me get the
little detail about the Magna Carta. When we filed the Declaration of Independence, that severs political ties. It don't apply to us anymore. Okay, so his first evidence of a claim of a definition of a magnitude of men failed the test. I said, if you want to go back, if you want the Magna Carta, you need to go on back over on the other side of the pond where it belongs. We have a Declaration of Independence here. And the U.S. Constitution, pulled that up, showed the states shall not compact except during actual invasion, proven 1/6/2022, which was when we was established, was invaded. And then it also says, or in a time of imminent danger that will not delay, the delay will not permit. So we're in accordance with the U.S. Constitution. Then he wanted to go to Law of Nations, and he said, it says that there's got to be a magnitude of men. I said, okay, are you a party to the compact? He said, no. I said, okay, then you can't define the compact. The men there says we are a magnitude of men. So your claim of fraud has now been overcome with a preponderance of evidence. I said, if you ain't got no more, bud, I would quit saying that we're in fraud. And he began to cuss a woman. And I said, you got one warning. This is it. You do it again, you're done. And that was the second time I put him out. His name was Pendergrass, Kirk Pendergrass. And as far as I know, we've had no feds, none, that have addressed me. And if they have addressed me, they done it without identifying themselves. I've had no problems with what I do because I don't trespass. I don't aggress. I'm in peace, and I defend that. And I stay within the accordance of the doctrines that I have presented.
There you go. Meaning he's within lines. It's that if he was doing something illegal of any sorts, then it would be all over. He'd already been approached.
Yes, sir. So what I've done with the AFR is all 48 contiguous nation states. The people who come out and have their convention of state, get the compact started, get 4 signatories, bring it to the AFR. International existence, acknowledgement of existence is diplomatic action, international diplomatic action. Move forward independently, equally to the other nation states and to the AFR, equal. And you send a delegate to run the AFR just like the Firm League of Friendship was intended to be ran. I'm not a throne holder. I'm just an officer. I have more authority in the compact than I do in that chair. I'm not self-appointed in social contract like Russell J. Gould, Keith Livingway. What's the other man's name we spoke of? David Straight, Anna von Ritz. I mean, I could go on and name some more. The Bar Association, City of London. I'm not self-appointed in contract with others where the population can never be a party to it except by my permission. And then it would only be with the authority that I delegate to them in private contract. I'm not from that authority. I'm from a social compact where the people are the authority for and the ends of legislation. That's where they can alter their legislation without having to go to war. It's a peaceful means.
And that's the biggest key of all.
Yes, sir.
Preventing war, civil war, especially.
We don't need that. All that's going to happen from there is we're going to hurt more. The Babylon that we've been raised in, the sound of pain and suffering, is the only language we've been taught. Is upon us to teach ourselves, each other, and the kids in the right way. Raise them in the right way, and they shall not depart. Because right now, a lot of them, the way that they're being treated, that they can be sent from a school to a private facility to live without the parents' consent, just because they told the teacher that they had an argument. Have you seen about that, Sheepdog?
Yeah, we played that last night, I believe, on the clip.
What do you think's happening to that 12-year-old kid that's out there in that it just don't seem that should be allowed. Unsupervised, 12 years old, going to give them their own residence.
Right. And in California, they're wanting to pass a bill to where they take the child out of the residence for a few days to get away from the parents and all that stuff. And, you know, Sean, you got a really big pedophile problem, grooming issue in this country that needs to be addressed really soon. And I don't know how that's going to look, but, you know, they say that they won't be able to walk down the street, which I think that would mean people lining the streets, screaming, protesting, whatever, not in any kind of violent manner, but just it's bad.
Well, one thing that could be done again is from the authority of being a people in compact, serve notices instead of being divided inhabitants where the voice has no authority. The protest is about like a child kicking his feet in law. I'm not trying to discredit anybody, and I'm not trying to look down. I'm not no better than anybody. God knows I've had my sin. I'm short of the glory, and I admit it first. But the truth is the truth. Law is law. Legal is legal. Contract don't make it. God did. Contract only changes the way it applies to those who are party to it, the property within, and only administered when administered from within. Like I said the other night, enter a foreign court judgment. You'll have a better chance. This foreign court is from the authority of a people in compact. This is the judgment by affidavit. Instead of expecting for your evidence to be entered admissible, no. In pre-trials, the Jesuit's going to say that's distinguishable. That case law is distinguishable. It's not the same. It's not the same as this case. That's not a precedent to bring that evidence. It's not admissible. It's distinguishable. It's not admissible. Until they have you dwindled down to where the jury can't see the truth, then they will give you what they call a trial. By the way, folks, let's talk about elements of a jury for a minute. I'll give my next year's paycheck if anybody alive has ever had a lawful jury trial in this country and prove it to me in what we call a court. Because I'm going to tell you the elements of a lawful jury. They could have been present on the scene. They could have known the defendant. They could have judged the law as well as the evidence. They don't receive instructions from a Jesuit on the bench. That's tampering with the jury, in case nobody'd ever caught that little detail. We don't see jury trials. We've never seen them in our lives in this country, in what we call courts. They've redefined what the jury is. When you take the elements of something away from it, it's not the same creature. And when I was trying to get Brother Terry to speak up the other night, I was speaking of rabbis that are not rabbis. When God's people was pushed from the church and they had returned, they found that it was not. The people there didn't have the elements of God. They had changed their image. There are rabbis that are not rabbis. There are Jews that are not Jews. There are judges that are not judges. There are lawyers that are not lawyers today. The elements are not there, then it's not that creature anymore. It's time to see things for what they are. I yield.
Awesome. Anything else you got you want to wrap up with, Sean, before we close out?
No, sir. I wish that Mike would have been here. He's a wealth of knowledge. Now, I will say this. If anybody is really considering using me and the truth that I brought forward to walk away from Mike, that would be a loss on your behalf, because Mike's a world of knowledge. I come in here for the last 3 months to be advised, because Mike's got more knowledge than I have on a lot of events. And knowledge is what you need. Knowledge is wealth. Your brothers and sisters, the love of your brothers and sisters, and the knowledge, that's true wealth. I'll yield with that.
And it says no judicial courts nor judges have existed in America since 1789. Executive administrators, not judges, enforce statutes and codes. and that's FRC versus GE 281 US 464, Keller versus PE 261 US 428, one statute 138 through 178. See also the 11th Amendment. This was the abolishment of all inferior courts to hear cases of law or equity. This means that all courts below the one Supreme Courts, not the U.S. Supreme Court. Just to add to what you said there. Tracy, you got anything?
No, just to follow up what Sean was saying, we've said it so many times before, but at this time in the journey that we're on, you have to have ears to hear and eyes to see. When people are presenting information, you have to listen to understand it, not just listen to react to it. And so many people are missing that point right now. The information that Sean has brought the last two shows that he's been with us is the same information that Sheepdog and Mike and even I am when he was here. They have given you guys this information, and Sean is just presenting it in a different way that helps us understand how it all comes together.
Yep.
So instead of getting so upset and so defensive in the chat, if you have questions, send them to us. Sheepdog always says, if you have questions, message him, message Miss Sheepdog, message me, and I'll get the questions to them so they can help you understand. Knowledge is power, and it's a wealth of knowledge that's coming our way. Take it as a blessing and not being so upset about it. It's time for everybody to literally dig their feet in and really try to understand what is happening. If you're not able to accept this information, you're going to have a really, really, really hard time moving forward as this progresses.
Right. He gave you the good news earlier when he told you everything has already been taken down. So what most people worry about is everything's not under control, when he just pretty much stated that everything's under control. We just have to do our part. And if that's all we have to do, then that's a blessing in itself, because where we were headed, as a country, was straight to FEMA camps, and what he was saying about China on the north and south border, that was the plan. That was the plan. That was the plan. And before you even got turned around to even see what was going on, they were already going to be there on you. So we got to be grateful that we got the time right now and people to come forward like Sean, to share information that even myself, I'm not versed in it. It's not my stronghold. It's not my thing, but I consider myself a student always in everything that is presented to me. If I don't know, I just don't know, and it's okay to not know, guys. But just be grateful that we're given the grace, this grace period, to get it right, to correct the time in history, so that we don't repeat it, because they say we're doomed to repeat history if we don't remember, and all we have to do is go back and look at how it all began. And I would encourage people to even go back even further. Don't just read one book, read several books, order some books. A lot of this online searching it's okay, but when somebody recommends a good book, order it. But yeah, each one of us, this is awesome to be alive. I wish everybody could see it the way most of us do, and the others will come along, because I've been there, and there's only one. You're either going to be on your knees, or you're going to be on your feet, and that's it. And I'd rather die on my feet than to live on my knees. And we got our children to fight for, and I'm just grateful that Sean is coming on here with the wealth of knowledge to share with us, so that we can go back and do our own research, to add to what we may or may not did not know. And The next show, we'll have him back. We'll have Mike on, and we'll get some more information as we go. And I'm looking forward to that. So, Marlon, you got anything? Good to go?
No, not right now, Sheepdog, but I thought it was a great show and wanted to let Sean know we appreciate him coming on tonight. And great job, my man. Great job. Thank you so much.
I thank you for that. I just try to show the different instruments, documents, same thing, and the elements of how they're entered and how they operate so that people can get a better comprehension of some things when they're looking at them. You know, that's basically all that I've really offered in some of the history. The way that the continental dollar was devaluated and it was upgraded at different times. It was insider trading by legislative acts. There's just things that we should all learn from so they don't happen again on our watch. And Mike is a really good man. I can hear it in his voice. I can hear it in Marlon's voice and Sheepdog and Tracy and all of them that I've seen come in here on a consistent basis. So I want to thank all of you guys too.
Appreciate it, Sean.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we greatly appreciate you and everything that you've brought to us, and we welcome you to come back and join us again.
I will try to create some more presentations. Generally, I don't have a whole lot more. I'll try to put them in a better lineup in time so that it can be presented in a more professional way. But right now, your guys' research on the current events and keeping up with what's currently happening is more than I can do. And I praise God for you guys as being sent forward as tools.
If you can send me the answers to all the questions before you come on next time, that'd be great. So I could look a little bit more higher IQ in this moving forward. But I thank you, Sean, for coming on. Tracy or Sean, would you like to close us out in a prayer?
I'll give it a round.
Okay. Yeah, do your thing. Appreciate it.
Almighty Father in heaven, may we all continue to assemble, being a people of your nation, and learn what that is, what the elements of your people are, not those that are sent by the authority of a private contract. Some folks that are evil have attacked your nation of people, Lord Father. I pray that you'll put your hedges up. You'll defend the children. You'll bring us forward as your tools. Clothe us with a full body of armor, Lord. We will carry out your words. We will carry out your work. We'll do everything necessary that we can. Give us eyes to see and ears to hear, Father. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, in Jesus' name, amen.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean.
Amen.
You see somebody's heart in their prayer every time. God bless everybody. Where we go one, we go all.
What keeps me up at night is the sobering realization that evil exists